Hi there, welcome back to the channel. So, I have been away from my Zoom for a minute, but I'm getting closer and closer. As soon as I get my guitar back, I'm getting back into recording. And if I'm not going to get the guitar back soon, I'm going to start working on another song that I recorded with this, because I want to finish my second Dynamite Death Chair record with the Zoom, because I've already got like 5 songs in the can. And I've had a couple people, some subscribers, friends of the channel, and they have messaged me about the Zoom, and they say things like, hey, have you tried the new Zoom Live Track series? Like there's a 22 channel one and I believe a 12 or 16 channel one, and those channels are deceptive because I think it's 20 channels and there's like a stereo set, and the other one might be 10 and 12, I can't remember. And there's probably limitations about how many tracks can be played back, you know, if you're trying to play all the tracks back, which brings me back to the Zoom. So I've been thinking, is there an upgrade path? You know, the Zoom, the venerable Zoom R24, I love it for multiple reasons. I really enjoyed making my record on it. A quick note about my background. I recorded in many really awesome, amazing analog studios over the years, professional studios with some incredible engineers, like super well-known producers. 2-track tape. Did some recording, some different digital recordings, early digital recordings. So I've had a lot of different experiences in studios with both tape and digital recording. And I myself, when I wasn't in bands that were able to record in those types of situations, leading up to that, I did a lot of 4-track recording on Tascams. And then moved into, when I started doing my own solo work at home with, you know, basically by myself, I started using Tascam reel decks. I had a TSR 8, I had a 38 8, which is an 8-track machine. And I really liked doing that because at the time I was really addicted to the idea of staying in analog. And I still am kind of analog in my process, but I let the analog thing go because most of those prosumer tape deck machines are just not that great. Even if you get them dialed in and get them pretty good, there's just a lot of limitations. The cards are limited. You know, you can upgrade them and stuff, but they break a lot. And unless you know how to fix the machine, you spend more time getting it serviced than you do actually using it, or at least I did. That was my experience with the prosumer Tascam reel-to-reel, open reel deck world. So I bounced out of analog and started using a little Boss BR8 unit. And that sort of was my segue to the Zoom. And once I found the Zoom, it just seemed like such a great tool, like such a great all-in-one thing, because A, I have 24 tracks that I can play back. I have onboard effects. You know, I can do compression on board, compression, limiting. I've got reverb. I've got a chorus setting, and they're all subtle, so it's like you don't have to worry about pushing the wrong thing, and you can print them or not print them, you know, however you want to do it. You have mastering capabilities, mix down capabilities. It's basically an all-in-one unit. You could do everything in this thing and never see a computer and then just output it to a computer at the end. Or you can use it as an interface with some software like Cubase. Or you can do, like me, kind of a hybrid thing where you basically stay inside the unit, but you bounce the tracks out to a computer, do some cleanup work in a software program of your choice. For me, it's been Audacity, but you could do whatever. And then after you clean up the tracks, you bring them back in, and then I'm back in the box again, and I mix and master out of here and only do a few tweaks to the final master in the computer. So I'm always looking for like an all-in-one solution when I'm doing these standalone recorders. I want to be able to plug into it and use it. And the reason is that I think there's a sweet spot with the Zoom. I think the best results from the Zoom come with like certain EQ settings, and I've learned this from the mastering output. And I've had lots of people, subscribers and friends of the channel, send me notes and make public comments giving me lots of cues and tips about things they've learned. And it always seems like there's sort of a certain thing that if you follow the things that you can follow inside the Zoom, meaning that you use the EQ a certain way. You make sure your settings are a certain way. If you're getting low output because of the preamps not being the greatest, then maybe you're going to double a track. And all those things are easy when you have 24 tracks and everything is here, and you have a mastering effects bank where you can kind of make it sound like you know what you're doing. That's the main reason I like the Zoom. It makes me kind of sound like I know what I'm doing. I'm basically an at-home DIY hack as far as recording goes. I've had some experience in some of these studios, like I said, but that was as an artist client, and you don't really learn how to record doing that. You don't have time. They don't have time to teach you, and you don't have time to pay attention because you're trying to record your record. So I can't say I learned much from being in those studios. A couple of people inspired me, and I learned more about their work and their techniques, after I worked with them, and learned a lot that way. But really, the best way to learn is, get your own hands on it. Start with DIY stuff and work your way up. Who knows, maybe one day you'll own a studio. So I like the Zoom because it makes me sound like I know what I'm doing. When I originated the Zoom, and I make the most of the EQ in the Zoom, bounce the tracks to the computer, clean them up even more, bring them back in, and then use that mastering mode and that mastering effect and go in there and get those settings just right for my ears. Now, when I output the product to the computer and I can do some more mastering there, more cleanup, some noise reduction, some high-pass filtering or whatever you want to do, at least I've gotten kind of a finished, sweet-sounding professional product because of the work I did here first. Whereas I don't think that my skill level and my outboard effects and the app, the things I could download to use, I don't think that my skill level would make the most of that. And I think I would be missing the last level of polish that I get from the Zoom by allowing the Zoom to do its thing with the mastering effects. There's like this thing, I guess what it is if I was to go the other direction, if I was to say use the Zoom live track, it sounds like a really good unit with lots of improvements. The preamps are better, you're going to just get better sound. You can record at higher bit depth rates. You can go up all the way to 96, whereas here you're trapped in 41, you're trapped in CD, 16-bit. There you can go 24-bit, higher bit rate, and you can go all the way up to like 96K. So it's more modern, has the better specs. And so it would probably, each track would, like if I were to record the drums with that Zoom live track, L20, would probably sound, the tracks themselves would probably sound better. The only problem is the L20 is sort of walking that line of being a live mixer with some recording capabilities, but not so much for mix down and final output. It's more like you capture with the live track, and then you use your computer software to finish it, and you output from your computer and do your mixing and mastering there. That seems to be the best way to use that unit, which, who knows, that may be where I end up. But right now my reluctance springs from the fact that I really like to finish everything in the R24, including the mastering, or at least the beginnings of mastering, here. I want to output 99% of the track. I want it to happen here. That seems to be the best way I get good results with my experience level. The other unit that I sort of looked at for a minute was the Tascam series. I think it's called the Tascam is called the DP3024 and 32. It's a DP series, and those look kind of cool. I do have kind of a mixed history with liking Tascam, like just the overall sound of Tascam. I used to love the old 4-tracks, but they do have this like sort of signature sonic sound, and I noticed it with the real decks too. It sounds a little rolled off and flat to my ears. I much preferred Soundcraft boards, and there's a Soundcraft board called the Soundcraft Signature 22 mixer with effects, and it sounds like it's sort of similar to the live track with maybe even better preamps. Soundcraft is known for making really good boards. It's a British company. It's kind of has like a British tone. They're known for like a sort of distinctive British tone to their pre's. That was the other one I looked at, but once again, I believe that the Zoom Live Track L20, the Soundcraft Signature, are all sort of improvements upon the Zoom, meaning that you're going to have more headphone outputs. The pre's are probably going to be a little more robust and more hi-fi sounding. I know for the fact that the L20 has probably better sounding pre's, but I also read people still talking about gain issues, like just not getting enough gain, you know, having to double up and stuff. And that's kind of an issue with the Zoom already. So that might just be a kind of a Zoom thing. They might be cutting costs somewhere with something that makes the pre's not quite as robust as, say, the Soundcraft or maybe the Presonus, something like that. So I guess the idea for me is if they came out with a Zoom R24 2021 or a Zoom R24S, or, you know, like whatever the upgraded model version designation would be, that would be the ideal unit for me. Like the ability to do higher bit depth rate, you know, higher resolution or frequency resolution, whatever. I don't know if that really helps the resolution or not, but I do know that it makes for better blacks, better signal to noise ratio. You can do more with it because it's a bigger file. So that would be an improvement if they had something like that. But I would like to remain in this world of the Zoom where you're like an all-in-one solution. You can mix and master out of the box and finish with this thing. I mean, you literally do not need a computer except to output it. But you can do everything with this thing if you know what you're doing. And I think you get some very satisfactory results because, once again, it may not be the individual tones are so great. Like maybe this mic is better than this one, or this unit has a better preamp, so it's technically better as far as resolution goes. When you hear the tracks, you go, well, that one does sound a little better. But now when you've recorded the entire thing, right, you're going to output the entire record, that might not be as noticeable if the sum is greater than the parts. And that's what I think the Zoom excels at. It kind of makes you sound like you know what you're doing, and it puts a little polish on it, you know, because they know the compressor settings better than I do. I'm not that experienced. I'm trying to learn, but come on. I'm like a homebrew guy as far as engineering goes. A hack, a beginner, a neophyte, you know. So this helps with that, I think. And that's what I would prefer. That's what I would like to see Zoom do. I'll probably end up with one of those live tracks, especially if you guys want to see it and I get enough subscribers and people really want to explore. They're not that expensive. I wouldn't, especially the 12, I believe. It's not that expensive. I'd invest in it and try it out. And who knows, maybe they could link together somehow. Like you could use that to capture it and it all come in. Who knows? That's not a bad idea. Use the L20 to track, but use this to mix and master and output. Because you still have CD quality. Because the other thing with the Zoom is they have 48 here, but you have to drop back down to 44.1 in order to output the effects, which I think is where the magic is with this. I don't know. I'm beginning to stick with the idea that I've had that it's not about resolution or things like that. It's the sum of the parts. Same thing in photography, because you can always chase gear and get the next thing, but are you really getting the most out of it? You know, and is it really necessary? Maybe you're going to get better sound by doing something else that's less expensive and is less complicated, like this. Because it would be a bum out to replace this and then get recordings that aren't necessarily any better, you know. The one unit that I'm interested in, the Presonus Studio Live 32S 32 channel digital mixer. That one intrigues me because it looks like a big microphone preamp upgrade. The pre's in it look way better. The signal to noise ratio way better. All of the technical things are going to be, you know, the best or better. Actually, I think that one may stop at 48. Doesn't go to 96K. So it's interesting to note that these really good companies with great engineers aren't always worried about the highest bit depth rate. You know, I don't know if that has the biggest bearing on what kind of product you're gonna or what you're gonna output as your finished project. So I'm wondering what everyone out there, what the consensus is. Like, do people want to upgrade from the R24 to the L series, the LiveTrack series, or are they looking into the Tascam or the Presonus or the Soundcraft? And there's a few others out there that are lesser known brands. I'm just wondering what you guys are thinking, because at a certain point when you're getting this better resolution stuff, it's almost like why would you even do this at all? Because, you know, if you can beat the LiveTrack already with some kind of audio interface. But I do guess the LiveTrack offers some live functionality that you wouldn't get from an audio interface. But I guess my point of it is that if you're not going to get assistance and a finished product with the unit you're using as far as mixing and mastering goes, and you're only using it to capture, they're not even, you know, the greatest for that. It seems like you would be better off capturing it just directly in your computer and going from there if you're going to have to take the tracks in there anyway. But I don't want to say that because I'm probably not understanding what people are really wanting to use them for, because I know that what I'd want to use the Zoom for is probably not the most common way to do recordings. Most people capture it and take it to the computer. I just prefer this, you know, because I'm old school. So I'd be interested to know what, you know, the consensus is. If you want to hang on to the R24 as long as you can, because it doesn't look like they're going to upgrade in this type of way, that the direction is more towards capture it with the best mic pre's and lots of headphone inputs and outputs or whatever, and then go to the computer for the mixing and mastering. If that's where they're headed, that's where they're headed. I would really like to see one of these units, you know, like an upgraded version of this. I just don't know if there's enough people like me out there to support it. You know, that might be why they're moving away from it completely. And I'm kind of surprised they even made these, because these were made, you know, in the era of computer recording. So I guess I'm just curious as to what everyone thinks, if you're going to stick with the R24 and hope that they upgrade this type of unit, or if you're moving on to the Live Track or another type of unit, you know, from another manufacturer. So anyway, let me know in the comments, and thanks again. I'll be recording on this soon, and we'll continue our video series. I think it's fun, and I'm learning a lot. I hope you are too. Thanks.